Hello everyone, I'm Matt Mitrovic, the alternate historian. Today we are going deep into the past with the question, what if Beringia still existed? For those who don't know, Beringia is the name of the land surrounding the Bering Sea, but is synonymous with the land bridge that once connected Asia to North America, allowing animals and eventually the ancestors of Native Americans to cross over and settle the Americas sometime between 15,000 to 16,500 years ago. During the Ice Ages, when glaciers covered much of the northern hemisphere, Beringia was above water and comparatively the size of British Columbia and Alberta combined. Despite it being an ice age, snowfall was light in Beringia, and the environment most closely resembled the grassland steppe of Asia, but scientists have found remains of trees in the area, suggesting it could have been home to humans, who hung out there before the glaciers melted, thus allowing a passageway south. These Beringians could have sustained themselves by hunting creatures like the woolly mammoth and the steppe bison, while protecting themselves from predators like the Beringian lion and the giant short-faced bear. That said, life in Beringia for these ancestors of Native Americans wasn't easy. Evidence shows that many humans who lived here had to resort to burning bones to fuel their fires during the cold nights. After a few thousand years of that, I can see why they thought the Pacific Northwest was a tropical paradise to them. As the Ice Age ended, Beringia sunk into the sea around 11,000 years ago. Only the Diomede Islands, the Pribilof Islands of St. Paul and St. George, and the St. Lawrence and King Island remain of Beringia today. But what if Beringia didn't sink beneath the ocean? What if the land bridge between Asia and North America still existed today? Now, when I was initially asked to make this video, one of the follow-up questions was how would relations between Russia and America play out if they shared a border? And I have to respond, why wouldn't Russia and America even exist in this timeline? Changing something like this would change the entire course of human history, and it's entirely doubtful anything in this timeline would be recognizable to us. For example, adding this extra landmass to the planet would cut the Arctic Ocean off from the Pacific Ocean, which would presumably alter ocean currents. The world would also be a colder place since Beringia only ever appeared during Ice Age, which means for it to still be around today, the Earth would need to be stuck in an extended Ice Age, thus the Earth would have extra landmass in this timeline. And above water Beringia would also allow multiple exchanges of people between the old and new worlds, meaning that human settlement across the Earth would be entirely screwed up as people groups settled in different places than they did in our timeline. Thus, kiss any historical nation or figure goodbye, as there is no possible way they could even exist in such a timeline. There may even be different species of animals roaming the Earth, since wildlife also used the land bridge to cross over into the Americas, and vice versa. Humanity in this timeline might even look different from us because of the altered climate and genetic spread of humanity. They may resemble us in the broad strokes, but they might not correspond easily with any human race or ethnicity currently on record. And don't get me started on how unintelligible their language might be. With such massive changes to the planet, it's hard to craft a plausible alternate history scenario. But for the sake of the story, let's assume alien space bats came down and put a plausibility shield around Beringia. They raised Beringia physically up so that it's not subject to changing sea levels, but nothing changes outside of the region. So what happens next? Well, like I mentioned previously, there would be more human and animal migration to the Americas. Thus, not only would human civilization in the Americas be different, but animal life may also be unique to this timeline. Horses and other animals common to the Old World might exist and be domesticated by local cultures. There may also be more contact between Western and Eastern hemispheres around the Pacific. East Asian traders may discover a land connection and hug the coast to explore the Americas, or some North American culture would do it. Thus, Native Americans in this alternate timeline would build immunity from Old World diseases and perhaps keep up to date with technological advances. It's possible some Eurasian empire would extend their borders across the bridge into North America, much like Russia did in our timeline with Alaska. This theoretical empire would probably be one who controlled Beringia and whatever culture inhabited the area. These alternate Beringians would likely be primitive compared to their neighbors due to the isolation in the far north and lack of natural resources, but the unspoiled wilderness and local wildlife might make for an interesting destination for the more adventurous tourist in the modern era. Farther out in time, knowledge of the New World would trickle into Western Europe much earlier. Thus, a Columbus-like explorer might happen centuries earlier as Europeans try to get access to the trade wealth of the Americas by seeking a quicker route across the Atlantic. Although they probably would give up looking for the Northwest Passage a lot earlier. European colonization of the Americas wouldn't happen as we know it. Native cultures would not suffer the massive die-off of European diseases and may be technologically closer to the Old World cultures, although there is no guarantee of that. Would this mean that the Americas would be safe from imperialism? Maybe. It would depend if European cultures develop into a society that tries to colonize the globe. At worst, you might get a situation like Africa where imperial powers grab territory for national glory. Perhaps some states that are either advanced enough or far enough from the coast might remain independent. Alternatively, in this timeline, China may have a more maritime culture and could have close ties with American states or even have colonies of their own in the New World. The Pacific Ocean could be awash in maritime states competing for colonies and may even be fighting to gobble up the European continent before anyone else can. Unfortunately, this is really just a long-winded way of saying I have no freaking idea what this world would look like. It's hard to come up with any plausible scenario about what a world with Beringia above the seas would look like. There are just so many variables to consider that even if you try to be realistic as possible, you would end up creating a world unrecognizable to even the most hardcore alternate historian. But hey, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes we need fantastical worlds where we can let our imaginations run wild, and no timeline can be wilder than a world where Beringia beckons to the most adventurous spirits. Well, that is what to say on the subject. If you like what I do, please comment, subscribe, share this video, support me on Patreon. I'm Matt Mitrich, the alternate historian. Bye.